$1,400 fourth stimulus check specifically focused on Social Security, including retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, SSI, VA, and RRB. I have all the details and what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. Alright, now in this video, I want to discuss all the latest details and where we currently stand on a fourth stimulus check, especially for those of you that are low income or fixed income beneficiaries. I do know that there are a lot of you right here in the community wondering, will there be another check? If so, when are we going to get it? How much is it going to be? And who is it going to include? Again, a lot of very good questions. And again, I want to bring you the latest updates on this because things are changing very rapidly. The economic picture is unraveling. And again, all of that is going to detail how much another check could be and if there will actually be one. So let's get into it and discuss all of these details. However, really fast before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe by hitting the button right down below the video, as it's totally free to do so. And because I am your one and only daily advocate, I'm here for you right by your side every single day, watching all this new information hitting the wire, doing the research and breaking it all down into these short videos so you can stay updated with what's actually going on, and most importantly, how it's going to impact you, your money, your benefits, your lifestyle, your bank account, and of course anything showing up right now you can possibly grab and or take advantage of. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and also remember, I'm here for you in any way that I can be. That's my dedication, that's my commitment, and as always, that is my promise to you and everybody right here in the community. Alright, thanks again. Let's get into it and talk about where we currently stand, what are the latest updates, and what do we need to watch that's actually going on right now, because this picture is changing on a very regular basis. And like I've said, this is what is going to detail all of the information that we want to know and the answers to our questions in regards to more checks and or even just one check going out for the American people. All right, so I want to make it very clear before we get into this any further. I alluded to this a little bit ago, but I want to make it very clear. As of right now, a fourth stimulus check has not been approved yet, okay? I've seen some comments down below saying, you said a check was coming. No, I didn't. I never said that, okay? But I am giving you details on this, and I am giving you the updates on this because, like I said, the economic picture is changing. And remember, what does it all come down to when we are wondering if we're going to get another check? Do they look at all of our requests and all of us asking for more money? No, unfortunately, that is not what they look at. They look at the economic picture. That is what they look at to determine if another check is needed and how widespread it needs to be, how big it needs to be, who it needs to reach, and all the other details that many of us want to know about. So just want to make that very clear from the very start here so that there is no miscommunication and no misunderstanding. However, let's quickly talk about the details because, yes, we are still relatively early in 2023, but this picture is really changing pretty quickly here, and the economic situation is unraveling, just like we were anticipating over the last several months here, and mostly through 2022. Many people were coming out suggesting that 2023 is going to be the year where we're going to see the major unraveling of the economic picture here in the United States, and that's pretty much what we're seeing. So I do want to lay out a few different things here, and again, this is all what it's going to determine as far as another check. Remember, they always look at the economy. That is what they look at when they determine if more stimulus is needed. Unfortunately, they don't look at us and say, well, look, the low income and fixed income need more money. Honestly, I'm going to be real with you right now. They honestly don't care. They look at the economy, and that is what they look at to determine the likelihood of another check, okay? So just being real with you right now, this is what they look at. So we got to look at the details of what Congress is looking at, what the administration is looking at, what all of these people are looking at, what the Federal Reserve is doing, things like that, because this is what's going to determine it. So if we want to know, then I guess we should probably look at the same data points that they're looking at in order to determine the likelihood of something else coming. All right, so here's a few things that I want to point out really quickly. I don't want to get into tons of detail on all of this just because I could literally sit here for probably an hour or two just going on and on about all the different things. However, number one, first off, we need to look at the job market, okay? Now, again, this does not mean that, you need to be employed, things like this. Doesn't need to mean that you need to be out working 40 hours a week. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying we need to look at the job market to understand what's going on? Are there jobs being created? Are jobs being lost? Is the unemployment rate going down? Is it going up? Is it holding steady? What's going on here? Well, here's what we do know. We do know that the unemployment rate is going up. We know that jobs are being lost. We know that employers are hiring less. We do know this. We can see this. We've seen this in the reports here over the last several months, and we can see that the unemployment rate is ticking higher. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends on how you look at it. Well, obviously, we don't want anybody to lose their jobs. We don't want anything like that to happen. However, if you are in the camp of somebody that wants another stimulus check, then this would be a good metric, okay? This is something that you would want to see happening because the higher that the unemployment rate goes, we know that this is a key indicator that they look at when they determine if more stimulus is needed, because less people working means less tax revenues, means less economic growth, means less money going through the economy, because if less people are working, that just means that less money is being spent on goods and services, which means less revenues, less profits, less ordering, less inventory. It's all coming full circle, right? So that's why you got to kind of watch the job market very, very closely. Just like what we saw back in early 2020 when millions of people were losing their jobs, right? Because everything was being closed down. About 40 million people were unemployed at that time. I'm just using that as a quick example so we can understand kind of the magnitude behind this. Now, again, I do not anticipate 40 million people to be losing their jobs. Not even close to that, right? Maybe a couple million. And that's also what we've been hearing about as well, is that some big banks and CEOs and economists and analysts and people like this are suggesting we could be seeing up to about 2 million jobs lost in this country. It's a lot. It's a lot of people, right? That would push the unemployment rate significantly higher than where it currently is now. So remember that. Now, next, I want to point out another quick side note, which is back in, I believe it was early 2021, there were some lawmakers. Now, again, I totally get it. This is, a couple years ago, but let me point this out really quickly here and why I want to solidify this, because this is important to understand, because this is what lawmakers have previously said. Do you remember back in I think it was about early 2021, some lawmakers came out and they were talking about adding automatic stabilizers. Do you remember this conversation? If you've been watching the videos here on the channel for any length of time now, we talked about it in great depth during that time because this was actually a pretty encouraging thing. Basically, what the lawmakers wanted to do is they wanted to write legislation and pass it that basically wrote out that said if the unemployment rate goes over a certain percentage, which I believe it was about 5.5 to 5.7%, which again is not that far off from where we're currently sitting right now. They had this legislation that basically said if the unemployment rate goes over a certain level, an automatic stabilizer would be triggered. In other words, stimulus checks would be sent out. Now again, if the unemployment rate went even higher than that, again, another automatic stabilizer would be hit, and that would mean more checks going out. So this is something that lawmakers actually considered in a pretty serious way just a couple years ago. My point is, that is showing how incredibly important the unemployment rate is and the job market is to determining the likelihood of stimulus, okay? So just throwing that out there just as a reference point to something that lawmakers were seriously considering not that long ago, right? So anyway, I know I spent kind of a little bit of time on that one, but that is seriously a major factor. Now, next we need to continue watching the Federal Reserve. Now, we do know as of recently, the Federal Reserve has indicated they will likely slow down their interest rate hikes. However, they're not going anywhere. They've also indicated, yes, they may not be quite as aggressive, but yes, they will continue to increase interest rates to bring down inflation. However, remember this much as well. It's kind of like a runway with an airplane, right? You've got so much runway. The more runway you have, the more kind of generous you can be, right? However, the less runway that you have, kind of the more aggressive that you got to be, right? Because you're kind of running out of time. You get what I'm saying here? Cruising down the runway, you got to get some action going, or you got to slam on the brakes and kind of abort mission, right? So the whole fact of the matter is, that's kind of the same situation that's going on here too as well. The Federal Reserve is aggressively raising interest rates to bring down this inflation. However, if they don't do it quickly, they're going to crash the entire economy, and they know this. So basically what they're trying to do is get this inflation down quickly before the economy collapses onto itself. But if the economy starts coming down, guess what they're going to do? They're going to say, forget it on this inflation type thing, and we're going to go back to printing money, in other words, called stimulus or quantitative easing, whatever they want to call it this time. But essentially, they call it some fancy name. Usually, they've been calling it quantitative easing or QE. Maybe you've heard that before, but they've been doing that for a very long time. In fact, they just stopped it like a year ago. They didn't stop it that long ago, right? Whereas they were printing about $120 billion every single month. That's stimulus money that they were printing. So, yes. So basically what they have to do is the Federal Reserve needs to bring down this inflation pretty quickly here. Otherwise, they need to say, okay, we got to pivot here. We need to change course because we're running out of that runway and we're running out of time. Slam on the brakes. Let's pivot and let's start printing up more money and call it stimulus, or let's call it quantitative easing, QE, whatever they happen to call it this time. So we also know that some highly influential people have also been coming out suggesting that this is likely going to be happening. No changes there, that the Federal Reserve will do the same thing that we've done every single time with every economic cycle, every single recession, every single economic contraction, whatever we want to call it. But this is the same thing that happens every time, right? The economy starts to contract, and then all of a sudden they say, uh-oh, got to print up a bunch of money because the economy is going down the tubes. So that's what they need to do, right? All right, so you might be wondering, okay, nice lessons here, nice, economy lesson. But at the end of the day, what does this mean when it comes down to a stimulus check? Well, actually, all of this determines the likelihood of another check, because here's what it comes down to. All of these factors that I'm talking about here, and again, there's many others that we need to watch closely, but these are just a couple that I wanted to point out for you really quickly. This is what it comes down to. These are some of the metrics that they'll be looking at when they determine, is another check needed? Now remember, what is the problem, or what is the purpose of a check? Is it because they want to help us out? Well, not really. The whole purpose of a check is because the economy is contracting, the economy is slowing down significantly, and they basically print up a bunch of money. Congress approves hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars. The Federal Reserve prints up all this money, and then they send it out in the form of stimulus checks because they want to have us take that money and spend it very quickly in the economy. That is the purpose behind the checks, right? Also, remember, when we got those couple checks here over the last few years, what were they called? They were called economic impact payments. Were they called, John and Susie economic impact payments? No. Were they called Bob and Mary stimulus checks or, payments? No. They were called economic impact payments. In other words, economy, right? So the economy impacting payments, right? So essentially what they're calling them is just payments to impact the economy. That's literally what they are, right? So if we remember this, the whole purpose behind the checks is because of the economy. That's what they do. So they print up all this money, they send it out to us, the people, and they basically direct us to spend the money to stimulate the economy. That's the whole purpose behind the checks, right? So even though we like to think sometimes that, they care about us and they want us to give us a check, unfortunately, that's not the case, right? That is not the case at all. In fact, the reason that they do it is because they want to bring the economy back very quickly, and they know that if they give us money, that we'll spend it very quickly in most instances. A huge percentage of people will spend all the money very quickly, and that's exactly what they want us to do. So, what do? They give us money, and they call it a stimulus check, kind of a generic name, but really what it is, it's an economic impact payment, and what it is, it's impacting the economy, through these payments. Literally what it is. Anyway, of course, I'll continue watching this very closely, but I hope this gives you a better perspective on what's really going on right now and what I'm watching closely. But again, I've mentioned this before and I want to say it one more time, which is, it's a slow process. It's a slow process to get started, but once the economy starts slowing down in a big way, it happens pretty fast. And we've been seeing lately some big companies, some big corporations laying off thousands or tens of thousands of people at one time, right? We've been seeing medium-sized businesses laying off hundreds or thousands of people at a time. What about all the small businesses that are contracting right now that we don't even hear about, that are letting go, 2, 3, 5, 10, 12 people at a time? There's a lot of that going on too, but we don't really hear about it, right? So the point is, I don't want anybody to lose their positions. I don't want anybody to lose their job. I'm just simply telling you, this is what's going on, and this is what we need to watch closely, because as the job market starts to contract, as in more jobs are being lost, that is going to ripple through the entire economy, because less people working means less, money being spent. If people are out of job, they're not probably running out spending a whole bunch of money, right? They're probably contracting a little bit. Well, if that's happening across the entire economy, that means businesses are spending less on inventory. They're bringing in less through revenues and profits. They're spending less. It's just a whole big circle that we've talked about before in other videos. So kind of hope that explains it a little bit further. Of course, I'll continue watching everything closely, but when it comes down to it for fixed income beneficiaries, of course, if there happens to be another check, again, there's no reason that you would not be included. Of course, the likelihood of you being included would be very, very high, but of course, I obviously can't promise anything. But basically what we need to do is just continue watching the economic cycle and basically what is going on with the economy, and whatever happens there will be determining the likelihood of more checks and who they reach, how much they're going to be, how quickly they go out, all these things like this. But according to what everybody's saying, 2023 is the year that a lot of this is going to be happening. So we'll see. And again, I'll continue watching all of it very closely. So please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media. And go back and check out any of the other thousands and thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, I hope you're having a nice day. Enjoy, and leave your comments, questions, and feedback down below. All I want to do is keep you informed of what's going on and to help you out in any way that I possibly can. So I hope this helps to better understand the situation and what I'm actually watching and what actually determines stimulus checks. I think there's this misunderstanding out there right now that just because we ask for a check means they're going to give it to us. Not even close. Not a chance. That's not what they care about. That is not what they look at. If that's the case, we'd have, dozens of checks by now because we've been asking for a very long time, right? But that's not what it comes down to. It comes down to the economy. So anyway, hope this one helps you. Of course, leave your comments, questions, and feedback down below, and enjoy. I'll catch you again later in the next video.